Hi, everyone. This is Pandemics, Real Life versus Fiction. I am John Skylar. I'm a virologist with training in emerging infectious diseases originating in bats, specifically RNA viruses. I've heard that there are a couple of reasons that particular degree might be relevant to what we're going to be discussing tonight, but I'm sure we'll come to that. I currently work in the pharmaceutical industry in an unrelated topic, and I'm also a science fiction author. But I'll be serving as moderator tonight, so it's much less about me than my fellow panelists. And I'm going to ask Anna Kashina to introduce herself first.
Hi, my name is Anna Kashina. I'm a professor of biochemistry at the University of Pennsylvania. I have a master's degree in virology and a PhD in cell biology. And I've been recently doing some work on COVID-19. So yeah, I'm very interested in the science of this pandemic. In my other life, I'm a fantasy author, which is kind of my connection to the science fiction convention. Yeah.
Great. And then we have Carmen Garcia.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carmen Garcia. I am a nurse. I have a master's degree in nursing education. I have worked in nursing over 10 years, mostly in medical surgical. I'm also certified in wounds and ostomy, and I've been frontline through this whole pandemic. I've actually rotated to my old haunts, which is the cardiac and general surgical floors, which have been converted into COVID units in the facilities that I work at. So I've been able to see how the pandemic unfolded from the early days into now in real life, in real time, in my community, which is near Baltimore. So that's what I do. And a science fiction fan, long time.
Fantastic. And then finally, we have Dr. Harold Bob.
Hi, John. How you doing? Hi, Anna and everybody. Well, I've been a fan a long time. I've been a BizFist member for longer than I'd care to admit, but I actually was the Con program chair back the year Constellation was in Baltimore. I was the physician for Constellation. So I've been a physician for quite a long time and a fan for a long time. Lately, I haven't been thinking about anything but COVID. I've been quite a different number of different things in my career. I've been an emergency room doctor, a hospice doctor, family practice doctor. The last 5 years, I've been doing management for a nursing home chain, and I'm supervising care in 20 nursing homes and supervising transfers back and forth to a couple of hospital systems and interfacing with the state and county health departments as regards issues involving my facilities. And it's just been a really horrific few months.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, thank you both for taking time out, especially being active practitioners. It's really important what you're doing, and I think I speak for more than just myself when I say we appreciate everything you're doing. When it comes to comparing real life versus fiction, I think we need to kind of level set with the fiction that comes to our minds when we think about pandemics. And for me, there are three that come to mind. The first is the film Contagion, which is about the virus that was the subject of my PhD. It's very similar to where we are, but much more deadly. Bat RNA virus that makes a leap into humans and is just contagious enough to go global before causing severe mortality, but then does cause severe mortality in the end. It's a little more severe than what we're seeing in the current pandemic, but I do think that they modeled the scenario, the wait for a vaccine, the disruptions to society, et cetera, quite well, including some of the hysteria and pseudoscience. And then there's a very convincing performance by Jude Law as someone putting forward a homeopathic treatment that has no efficacy. And that's a great film. It was made in connection with a lot of virologists who I personally know, and was really well done. So that one's been coming to mind a lot. I've also been thinking a lot about Connie Willis's Doomsday book, which again, much more severe disease scenario with the Black Plague, which is the focus of that novel, but some of the human struggle has very much been forefront of my mind. And then finally, for my list, not a pandemic fiction, but very realistic in terms of the need of people to prepare and the way that societies hunker down, is N.K. Jemisin's Broken Earth series. I think her series very realistically depicts the kinds of things that societies and communities need to do to prepare. Obviously very different and substantially flawed society in that book, but in that series of books. But it kind of shows the mindset that's necessary to get through a time like this. Anyway, that's what I came to mind for me. Let's start with Carmen this time in terms of what fiction you thought of throughout this.
Well, at the very early, obviously, I had to watch Contagion, right? The movie came out, I think a few years back, with Jude Law, you mentioned that. Obviously, World War Z. And what attracted me to World War Z is because the gentleman who wrote it, which is Max Brooks, he actually has worked with the United States military in working out, real life exercises and what would happen if we would have a pandemic, right? It's sad to say, because I'm also I'm a reservist. I've been in the United States Navy for 12 years. I'm sort of disappointed in our response as a nation. I'm just gonna get it out. But when I watched World War Z and when I watched Contagion, I Am Legend, even, it's sort of like, it's a very dramatized way of describing what would really happen. Okay, so that's where he's got it from, like the worst case scenario and the most dramatized things of what could really happen in real life. Last but not least, I want to direct you to a film that is foreign. It's a Korean film. It's called The Flu. And actually, I just watched it. We just watched it, right? Right. And it's a very, in Korea and in Asia, they have a very different way of telling a story. But it was relevant because it went through what we've been through the past few months, denying the severity of the disease, denying the reluctance to shut down or shutting down halfway, medical facilities being overwhelmed, people panic buying, the panic, the confusion, also, sort of like the rise of fascism in order to have a sort of control over what's going on, the rise of this hyper controlling society that were putting people in camps and the people in the camps even got infected. So, I mean, it's sort of encapsulated, it's over dramatized, but encapsulated what's going on, in a much less severe way, thankfully. In a much less severe way. But
although I, to a degree, what we've been living through has been over-dramatized as well.
It's been over-dramatized, yeah. And it's been a total sort of lack of direction and a halfway response. I've sort of, the word that I could think of is half-assed, we sort of half-assed it, and it's disappointing, because I think that because we half-assed it this whole time, this is going to continue to happen. We're going to continue to see it. Now we normalized it, like in my facility, we normalized things, we just got to do the PPE, do this, LPUI, blah, blah, blah. People are getting lax about it, but the response is like, oh yeah, it's not so bad, even though we've seen a lot of people die.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I spent my entire life and career preparing for a moment like this and warning that it shouldn't, that it shouldn't occur. And even I was blindsided by the limitations of our response. But I think we're anticipating our second segment where we talk about the realities a little bit too early. Harold, what came to mind for you in terms of fiction in this pandemic?
If you think about things like the movie with Dustin Hoffman, Outbreak, some of the other, but consistently with all the science fiction, it really seems to come down to this exciting thriller between will humanity be saved or will humanity be completely lost? And it sort of comes down to a small group of people where it's very, very all or nothing. It's not the reality of what happened in 1917, 1918, or the reality of what's happening now, where there's massive social change, massive numbers of people who die, have their lives disrupted, changes to the healthcare system. But it's not like with Planet of the Apes, another thing where in the later movie, you know, the theory, well, this is how we lost control. It's not this whole thing with all of humanity is on the line. I think that with most of almost all of the science fiction, it was really, with the movie The Flu, it really came down to, as with so many others, there was one person who had recovered, and if we could get their antibodies and we could use it to make serum to save other people, but then you have the militaristic the militaristic political structure threatening to essentially destroy the whole city, including where that person was. There's sort of a pattern in a lot of the fandom things, which I think is almost accurate to reality, where the people who are expert in it, the scientists, are sort of shoved aside by the people who either are dictatorial or the people who want to be dictatorial and want to be sure that they get reelected, rather than people who are thinking, what do I do? What is best? How do I work with the people who have real knowledge and work with them to do the best we can, as opposed to saying, well, this is what I need politically, and if you can't give me this, I'll fire you. But that's really, in that sense, I think science fiction has been accurate in terms of the fascist ways. I hate to say it, but that, let's say, militaristic way. We've got to get this under control, or we're going to nuke that city of 2 million people to save 200 million people. That sort of mentality, realizing that that's usually not the reality of a pandemic.
Yeah, it's been a surprisingly cozy catastrophe, right? Where for most of us, you know, it's been about remaining in your home and avoiding becoming sick and avoiding making others sick. But then for a very small percentage, it's been very chaotic. And it isn't the nuclear apocalypse that fiction prepared us for in so many different ways. I want to give Anna a moment to share the fiction that has come to mind for her during this pandemic.
Yeah. So because so probably because I'm a scientist in my day job, or like in combination with my character, so I don't normally read about pandemics, because to me it just kind of feels like too much of a real scenario. I don't want to think of. I mean, it was kind of clear for a while that some sort of pandemics is coming. So I've been really scared about the outbreaks of like SARS and MERS and Ebola. I've been watching them. Fortunately, they went away, but it kind of has been coming. I mean, it's not a surprise that this happened. It's terrible, but it's not a surprise. So I agree with everyone who was talking about like the surprise of a response, and I guess it's our next topic. Having said that, so there is some fiction that I've been reading about pandemics. So one is some very old fiction about old classics about the plague epidemics in Europe. So my one name would be there's a story. I mean, so it's a kind of novella by Pushkin called Feast During the Plague, and it's just a story about how people like sit at the table and feast. So they know they're all going to die of plague sooner or later. So they just come to this table out of the darkness, and they sit together and eat and wait for the death to come. So it's kind of very powerful, even though it was written in 19th century. And all this. So the modern piece of fiction. So I remember the movie I Am Legend with Will Smith, and so which is kind of post-pandemic, which I felt like also was very powerful. And to me, it was one of the reasons I don't normally read about pandemics. But yeah, I just feel like it's too close to real life, and it's happening right now.
Yeah, I agree with you there. A lot of pandemic fiction makes me just angry. Because, you know, for example, I think Outbreak is a great example. So, like, they spend most of the movie trying to find this, like, originator monkey for some reason. And they just, there's just, like, tons of pointless running around as though somehow a vaccine requires your first patient to, it doesn't make any sense. And it for me, because I know too much, I've bitten the apple, it throws me out of the suspension of disbelief necessary. But there are, you know, I think Contagion was a great counterpoint to that, because it really was based on reality. You know, they realistically modeled that it would take, you know, maybe a few months to get a structure for the surface proteins, and you know, take beyond that a couple of years towards a vaccine, and that during that time people will be relatively isolated in their homes. And I think that was very, very realistic. You know, likewise, I also think that I meant to mention it before, but the book Darwin's Radio has a very good modeling of a pandemic, specifically from the way that the academic infrastructure would react to it. It has such a great understanding of the politics that exist within the NIH and the CDC, and how politicians' futures actually relate to that's another pick that I would bring up. I want to move to the second part of our discussion, but before we do that, I want to mention, because I meant to mention this before, and I did mention it in the chat, we're going to take questions at the end, but if you have questions as they come up, please just pop them into the Q&A, and we'll save them for when we get to that point. And I can see that some folks have already done that. Okay, so having gone through these examples in fiction, I think that the next thing that's worth addressing or tackling is, so what about the actual pandemic? We've spoken to this a little bit. What about the actual pandemic has been unexpected related to the fiction that we've been focusing on? And I'll start off. I'll start off with Anna, because you were already talking about that a moment ago. So go ahead.
So yeah, to me, like, our response to the pandemic took me completely by surprise. And yeah, I would fully agree with what Carmen said earlier. So when it was just starting, and I was watching this news, like when it was first in Wuhan, China, and then it just propagated, and then they started saying that it made it to the US. So through all these milestones, I was thinking, but we're testing, right? We're testing everyone. We're like tracing, or we're fine. So people have been calling me, I'm a scientist, and asking, so should we be worried? I said, no, we're testing. So like all these cases, like we have one case in the US, and it's well controlled and isolated. So by the time I realized that we're not actually doing any testing to speak of, and like we're still not doing any testing right now. So to me, it was like, it was this moment of like, oh my God, like we're in so much trouble, and nobody is even like, nobody even cares. So then you watch TV, you like watch what our politicians say, and it's awful. So to me, it was just like this complete turnaround. So I had great faith. So I immigrated here from Russia, from the Soviet Union. And I was like in this kind of mode that, you know, United States, they're the leader in the world. They're going to be the first to develop tests, the first to develop vaccine. They're going to help everyone. So when I saw what was actually happening, it's shattering, honestly.
And I mean, it blew me away too.
Yeah.
I was, you know, I went through, when I started in graduate school, 2008, I started my PhD. 2009, we had the novel H1N1 pandemic. And the response to that was so coordinated, with such excellent surveillance and such a national program. I mean, it started in Mexico, but the U.S., the monitoring system in California detected it first.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's such a contrast. We've lost so much of our preparative infrastructure in just a short time, in just 12 years. And it's very worrisome.
Well, as I heard, like in the last 4 years, we lost most of it, but it's just, you know.
Well, I don't want to get too political.
Right,
but
I know. Yeah. But anyway, so
But-
it was just shattering to me. And also, so I lived through very tough times in the Soviet Union before I came here. So in the 90s, we had almost no food, so we had to like stock up on food. So when I go to the store now, I remember those times. I mean, it's nothing like this in the stores right now, but I remember this list what you have to buy to survive for like this many months without any food. So it's, you know, and I just, so in like many ways it's historic, and I just kind of hope that this situation teaches us something. But in the last 2 or 3 months, it taught us staggeringly little, I think. And it's like, if we're going to get through this, we're going to get through this like thanks to the first responders and all these great people who are like on the ground level, like you guys, actually doing things, and not by the any form of coordination or test. I mean, yeah. So sorry, I don't want to get political again, but this was to me like a huge and not a very unpleasant surprise and all this.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to sound political when the realities have been politicized. But you know, we can't pretend. We have to be like Tony Fauci, and say, you know, the reality is that there were certain failures, and it's you know, it's not necessarily a political statement. It's just the situation we're in right now.
I mean, it's not just I mean, everybody can make mistakes, but the fact that we're right now still talking about like where did this disease originate, as opposed to talking about like, you know, how do we test everyone in the United States and just actually like control it. So yeah, right.
Yeah, it's very disappointing.
Like, how do we get enough ventilators and hospital beds? You know, just things like this. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was very strange at the beginning. I live in New York City, and I'm currently there.
Oh my God. Wow.
And at the beginning of it, the supplies were so scarce that I found myself, and I'm just a guy in my apartment sending emails, but I found myself connecting different medical supply companies with hospitals because no one was doing it. No one was coordinating these responses, and you couldn't get personal protective equipment. And, you know, much as he's kind of become a polarizing figure recently, Elon Musk had provided a small number of non-invasive ventilators that were desperately needed just to keep people off of invasive ventilators to keep that supply available for those who really needed them. And I was helping to get those to hospitals, and you know, I just kept thinking in that phase of this, like, why am I the one doing this? Why is it me? You know, I used to tell people when I was doing my PhD that, like, I'm not an MD, so if I ever see a patient, something has gone really wrong. And there I was, like, actually delivering supplies to patients and being like, this is really scary.
I mean,
that having been said, go ahead.
People were like asked to donate every person like gloves and masks to the hospitals, and that to me, like, so yeah, we donated some, and that was just, you know, so I know somebody actually who works in the hospital in the ER, so he was like one of the first responders, and he's saying, oh, we're doing great this week because we receive all these donations of masks from people. It's like, oh my God. And this is like, we're talking about one of the top hospitals in the country. And another thing, so almost everybody I know who works in research has the capacity to do the testing. So if you just tell us, yes, you can test, there will be like no problem in testing tomorrow, but nobody is allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then I totally agree. And these are things that, excuse me, that I never saw in fiction before. This kind of supply chain issue. You know, it wasn't really. I didn't think it was well considered in the fiction that I consumed. Harold, do you have any thoughts on how the fiction has stacked up to the reality?
But I think it's been really, really different because I think that instead of there being central people fighting to save all of humanity, this has really become a long struggle with a lot of first responders and nurses and physicians, everybody, people really pitching in, putting their own lives on the line. And so that was very different. I think that a couple of things I think that are important is that if you look at what happened in New York City, where New York City was hit before there was any sense of organization in this country. It paralleled what happened in Italy and France, as opposed to what happened in Maryland and some of the other states where we were shut down early and where the whole healthcare system worked together, both with the government and the private basis. And so if everything nationwide had been like in New York City, we wouldn't be approaching 100,000 deaths. We'd be approaching 600,000 or 700,000 deaths, because what happened in Italy and New York City was a breakdown of the healthcare system. And the other thing is that on relatively early immunoglobulin studies, the nationwide penetration is 3%, but in New York City, it's running 21 to 25%. So that's why so many of the deaths were in New York City.
Does that have to do with population density?
It does, but then the other side of it is that we need to be very careful about, and this happened in 1917, 1918, where because of the political pressure, executives opened up the city. San Francisco is an example, and then they had a massive surge. I heard an interview 3 nights ago of the governor of Arkansas speaking, Republican governor, Republican state, wanted with all his heart and soul to open up the state, gave an executive order to open up the state, and then was in this interview saying that he was told by the people who ran all the ICUs in the state that there were no beds left. And that if he didn't rescind the order opening up, that the healthcare system for his state was going to crash and burn. You're seeing this in many of the states as this virus moves from the Eastern time zone and Western time zone into the Central time zone, into the Piedmont area. You're getting
the Midwest, the South.
You're getting hit in these states. And if you extract out the nursing homes, which are a separate story, we're not really past the peak. We're past the peak. We're past the peak if you include in the peak of deaths, you know, what happened in the geriatric population. But this is many, many more deaths than you would see in an influenza year. And with, although older people are hit harder,
this affects younger people.
This affects younger people.
A lot younger people. Oh yeah, people don't think about it. But this is people who should have never been in the hospital, who are, you know, are a little bit fat. Who isn't a little bit fat? Everybody in the United States is a little bit fat. And they blame it on that, you know? They're like, oh, well, this person was overweight. That's how come they went into respiratory failure. I'm like, look, because I've seen quite a bit of people in their 30s and 40s and 50s that with no real significant health history die, you know, just flat out die. They took a turn and they couldn't, you know, they turn a corner and then all of a sudden they hit this valley and they never come up. And all they had, you know, people are blaming it because they're a little bit, oh, who was obese? And I'm like, who isn't obese? Who isn't overweight? Come on now. It ain't because of that. Because at the end of the day, COVID, yes, respiratory, but in reality, it's a coagulation disease. Because people went to this, and Harold could correct me if they're wrong, but I've seen it time and time again that people, not, you know, they have these heart issues, and not only that, their blood coagulates and thins, coagulates and thins. It also has sort of like a cutaneous component. That's where they call me the most, because they're like, oh my God, where's this bruising coming from? Is this a deep tissue injury? What is it? And I'm like, no, this, you know, they've done, my organization for my specialty has already done studies that they, because it's coagulation disease, the you know, the vesicles in like the tips of your fingers, you know, and the tips of your toes, you know, that actually do blood supply to those parts of the body sort of like shut down, and it causes this bruising that has nothing to do with pressure, you know. So anyway, that's another thing. What was surprising to me is like a miss. They think people think that it's not going to happen to them. Right. You know, people think, oh, it could never happen to me. Why not? It could happen to anybody. I've seen young people get it. You know, why?
It's like everybody.
Yeah, they think
it's like everybody thinks they're a teenager.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it happens to teenagers. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, people in their 20s that have no business in an ICU. What was surprising to me amongst all of this is the fact that it has become so politicized, and because it hit hardest in the blue states, you know, California, New York, places like that. You know, everybody thinks it's a disease that only Democrats get. And it has nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with that. Because now it's going from the coast to the middle of the country where people are poorer, people are sicker, and people are older, and there are a lot less resources. If it brought New York to its knees with all its money, because in reality, New York is a rich state. I mean, it generates a lot of income. You know, you have New York City, you have all this industry. I mean, what's it gonna do to Missouri and Kansas? I mean, they finally recognized it. You know, Alabama, I just read, only has one ICU bed left as of 3 days. As of 3 days ago.
Right.
Wow.
One in the whole state. So if somebody had a stroke, if grandma, somebody had a stroke, there's only one ICU bed left. You know, you better make arrangements because there's no, you know, go die at home, be covered in the blood of Jesus. You know, I mean, I've heard it time and time again. People tell me, you know, I tell them, you know, we have people, oh, you know, how come my mother can't come in, or I can come in to see my, you know, family member. We don't allow visitors. And I had people tell me, oh, yeah, you know, I'm covered in the blood of Jesus. That's not going to happen to me. I need to go see my family member. And I was like, I'm not going to get into this argument. These are just hospital rules. And, you know, we're going to do the best to keep you, you know, informed about, you know, your loved one's condition.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. People don't want to believe it's really happening.
Oh, it's not happening. Oh, it's not happening. It only happens to the blue state people.
Yeah, people don't want to believe it, and I wouldn't want to believe it either. I understand. I wouldn't want to believe it either. It's horrible.
Oh yeah.
But I do think it's very interesting what you both said. That basically points out that, you know, we have a lot of pandemic fiction out there, but not a lot of it deals with the struggles of the, you know, it's a cliche, but the simple country doctor who's just dealing with the cosmic implications of this on their individual life. We have so many things where it's a cast of heroes trying to solve the problem single-handedly or with like 5 people.
And all this technology and all this resources, you know.
Yeah, but we don't look at the individual stories very frequently, and maybe that's a lesson that as speculative fiction enthusiasts we can take away from this, that there are little stories to understand that this is a societal thing, and those smaller stories also have a lot of merit. I want to turn.
Sorry, I wanted to point out something like from a fiction writer's perspective. So we are always told, and I mean, go by it. So if you, so you have to assume that like everything that happens has to be like very probable. So that means that all the responses have to be perfect. So if you base your story on some people like being stupid, it will not be plausible in fiction, but in real life, this is kind of exactly what's happening. So if you wrote the response to the pandemic the way it's happening right now, the story will be like trampled down because this is obviously like the writer knows nothing about it. And this is not how it happens in real life because we have all these response teams and like all the structure in place. So yeah, and that's kind of, so it's not possible to describe what's happening to us.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a meme floating around about this that says, like, you know, I used to think Jurassic Park was ridiculous, but now I realize they absolutely would reopen a theme park that killed a bunch of people again and again and again if they thought they would make money. And,
absolutely. And people will go to it. Oh, people will go to it because it could never happen to them.
Right.
It could never, you know, it's this fantastical, magical thinking that it could never happen to them. You know, I mean, I go to work and I trust 3M to make a great product so I don't get sick. And in a way, I do trust a higher being. You know, like, okay, we're doing this. We're going to be safe about it. We're going to take a calculated risk. But yeah, I had people tell me to my face that it could never happen to them because, you know, the higher power is especially protecting them specifically. And it could never happen. You know,
I mean, I'm a religious person.
Yeah, it's a real person.
But I don't believe, yeah, I'm a religious person, but I don't believe that I matter that much to God that he's going to protect me from things that I don't protect myself from. And I think that,
Exactly.
you know,
Or like
you,
the whole,
you can't,
I
you
think
can't
there's
live
a
such
whole,
a self-centric,
yeah.
because
There's a very old
know,
saying that God helps those who help themselves.
yeah.
Right.
And in reality, like, we're not, you know, it's not something that people like to admit, but we're not as special as we think we are, right? I mean, each individual, sure, if you're 1 in a million, there are like 6,000 of you globally. So, you know, actually 7,000 at this point. So really, you know, we shouldn't imagine that we're somehow special or immune to these diseases in some way, just by virtue of our self-awareness bias, I guess. So finally, I want to, because I want to make sure that we have some time to address some of these questions. I want to ask kind of what everybody thinks, based on their experience with fiction as well as their experience with diseases in the real world, what predictions they'll make for the future. And I'll kick it off just by saying that the thing that is most important to me, and I think we know most of us know by now that this is going to be with us for a while. You know, we're gonna reopen, we may close again, there will be multiple waves, a vaccine may not be immediately forthcoming, all of these things, and those are all predictions I'm willing to make. But the prediction that I want to make most importantly is that this is not the last time this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Just because it happened once, there are still 10 more viral species in bats out there that I can think of that could do something similar to this.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it happened once doesn't mean that this is the last time it can or could happen. I don't know that it'll happen on such a global scale again, but I expect that as we continue to encroach on the habitats of animals that are just minding their own business, the viruses that have evolved into equilibrium with those animals will jump into us more and more frequently. So that's my prediction. I started with Anna last time. So Carmen, what would you predict going forward, looking into the world of fact and fiction for what we will see next?
Well, I predict the new normal, you know, and I totally agree with you. This is going to be a new normal for everybody, because I also believe this is not going to go away. At a human level, I mean, I just told you this example, but I have many examples of, you know, patients and family members who are almost completely out of touch with reality, you know. And in a way, I'm thinking, is there also like an epidemic of willing or ignorance?
Denial.
You know, I think so, because it's completely out of touch. I had somebody, and this is a nurse now, but she doesn't work in acute setting anymore, told me to my face, with a straight face, serious, told me, well, you know, the reason all those people are coming back positive is because the kits that we're using, that you guys are using, are already infected with COVID. And I took a minute and I breathed, because she's a friend, and I said, my dear, these are the same kits that everybody thinks it's a special kit. There's nothing special about it. I just want to tell you. It's a little kit that we test people for the regular flu or for anybody that is suspected with a virus. It comes with a red top. It is, you know, very standard. The standard kit that we have for viral illnesses is the same kit that we use at the bedside to test for someone that is suspected of having COVID. Nothing special about it. I could test you with it if you have the flu, if you are suspected with any other viral illness. So what I think is this, I don't know, it's the new normal that we have to adapt to, you know, the limitations on everything, you know. But that'll be my prediction. This is going to be the new normal. The new normal would be small gatherings. The new normal would be limited, sort of like limited visitation, limited services, you know, especially at the bedside, sort of to keep things manageable. You know, people don't think that way. I have many coworkers that say, oh, this is going to go away, and by next year, maybe, you know, we're going to go back to how we were before. And I think we crossed the Rubicon.
Yeah, I had to tell a colleague early on with this.
Yeah.
She was asking me, well, since you studied this, like, when do you think by the end of April, like, we'll be able to get back to business as usual? And I was like, no, that is not what is going to happen. We will not by the end of April, we'll be lucky if it's by summer, and it won't be over by then. And, people don't want to, as a species, we don't want to change our worldview to admit that our world has changed. It's hard. It's really hard, because we live based on the patterns that we recognize. So when our patterns change and we have to readjust that, it can be very disconcerting. I want to ask, I'm mindful of time, I want to ask Harold, what predictions would you make based on your experience with fact and fiction for the next year or so?
Right, a few things. Number one is that most pandemics last a couple of years, and I'll predict that this pandemic is going to last a couple of years. Sadly, it looks like we're probably going to get close to 150 to 200,000 deaths in the United States from this pandemic. I think that it will change the healthcare system in this country. I think it will, because of the suffering and the lack of coordination at the federal level, it will push us toward a universal healthcare system. I think we will see that. And I think we will see more of a vertically integrated healthcare system, because this has made individual medical, business, financial practices, small practices of under 10 doctors, non-financially viable. So that's one prediction I'm going to make. The other two predictions are, I see tensions in a couple of areas of what are unseen consequences. I'm seeing a lot of talking points. I hate them. I hate when I see the talking points saying that the death rate from suicide will go up because of the economic shutdown. I don't think that that's true. I don't think that there's any evidence to support that. And I'm going to go on record as saying that there will be less of an increase in death from suicide, then there will be a corresponding reduction in disease because of the more positive environmental changes of having less air flights. That the
I hope you're right.
That the number of air flights were causing changes in the ozone layer that were damaging the earth and causing cancer, and I believe that that's going to be less. There are jellyfish coming back into Venice. I'm not saying, but I think that there's going to be less illness as a result of the social change. And I do not believe this theory that by shutting down the economy to save lives, we're going to see more suicide. It's a horrible talking point. And I want to.
Well, I very much hope you're right. And also, we have seen already other infectious diseases have really dropped. We're seeing much lower rates of other infectious diseases besides COVID. Almost everything is COVID now in the public health data, and that's a sign that these stay-at-home orders are having knock-on effects, where we're reducing our rates of incidence of other things. So that is good. Absolutely. I don't want to cut you off, but we do have to get some time for questions. So I want to make sure that Anna gets to contribute to the predictions part as well. Anna, did you have any predictions you wanted to make?
So yeah, I think just very briefly, so yeah, I believe we'll get through this pandemics in two possible ways. One would be if we have a vaccine, which is hopefully true, and the only other way is like if most people get it and we develop herd immunity. So it will take time, so 2 years is probably realistic. And I really hope that, I love Harold's predictions. I hope some of them are true, that things will change for the better as a result of this. So I also truly hope that we'll have learned something. So when the next pandemic comes, which will happen someday, that we'll have a better response.
Great. Yeah, so we've got actually a great number of questions here. So I don't think we're going to be able to get to all of them, but I think I would like to pose a couple of them. So the first one that came in was, based on all the media we are being shown about all the interactions of COVID-19 in modern life going on right now, what new book or film would you create that would serve as an educational prevention opportunity?
Educational, gosh. Yeah, I think there are many books about pandemics being written right now. I was thinking of one of my own where I would describe how a new virus can originate and spread. I'm not sure I will ever write this book, but yeah, I think that would be the type of books that would probably educate.
I would write something that just makes masks seem like a thing that are cooler to wear. I would try to make masks cool.
Right, that's a good one.
Because, you know, with people, like, you know, I've encountered so many people that are resistant to believe in science or believing in what we now know about the coronavirus and about the reality of how to stop the disease, that I'm just sort of like, I'm just sort of jaded about it. I feel like, oh my God, if we were to come up with something to like, yay, this is great, you know, it would just get such a tremendous pushback, you know, that I don't know. I guess I'm a little, I don't know, jaded, disappointed. I don't know in doing that. I'm like, oh, well, you know, sort of like let go and let God, you know. We know what to do to keep safe, and I hope people do it. But, you know, trying to convince people is just, it's been very hard, even now.
Well, maybe we can all, you know, move forward and learn something. Life does have to change. So, so that's one question. Moving on to another question. This one is specifically about the Cobra event, which is a book by Preston, and we'll answer that live. So the infective agent in that book is a really frightening recombinant virus made from modified variants of the nuclear polyhedrosis virus, rhinovirus, and smallpox. How feasible do you think this level of bioterrorism is? So I'm going to field this one to start just by saying that I used to serve on the Northeast Biodefense Research Consortium, and there was almost nothing about the Cobra event that I could realistically relate to anything that I know to be scientifically accurate. I do think that it created a lot of sensationalism that did lead to a good conversation about biosecurity, but these are like three completely different viruses in every single way, and they've evolved very specific niches in human disease. So making recombinant viruses that just willy-nilly throw things together, yeah, the reality is we're not that smart. We don't know that much about how to evolve a virus well to transmit in humans. I've never encountered a pathogen, and I've made viruses myself with my own two hands, out of different flu viruses, out of measles virus, and highly pathogenic viruses. And nature has done the experiments. Nature has created the virus that is the virus that does the job best. And we're not good at making anything better. The second you go in and you change something, you're generally making it worse. And I wanted to make sure to answer this question because it's important that we all recognize that nature is much scarier in a lot of ways than what humans can do. So a lot of these like fears of bioterrorism are very overblown by comparison to the threats around us that we need to be prepared for by doing the experiments.
So
I don't know if anyone else wanted to.
Yeah, I wanted to comment. So yeah, there's a lot of talk about like coronavirus being a biological weapon or having escaped from a lab being created on purpose. So the viruses in nature and viruses as biological weapons have very different purposes. So if you're creating a biological weapon, you want to kill all the enemy troops without affecting your own. So this virus will not be very transmittable and only almost 100% lethal. So actually, I mean, there has been persistent talk that the Ebola virus was like at least exploited as a biological weapon, and it would have worked because it has very high lethality rate, and because of this, it's easier to tackle for a population. So coronavirus and successful virus in terms of nature wants to propagate as much as possible and not necessarily kill everyone, but just multiply as much as possible. So the most successful biological viruses are actually would be slightly less lethal than coronavirus, but like just as infectious. So you want to infect everyone and multiply as much as possible without killing off the human race. So
yeah, it reminds me of the story from during the plague. The English army got knocked out with the Black Plague, so the Scottish said, "Oh, here's a great opportunity. Let's invade England," and then they got the plague and they had to retreat.
Yeah, 1 minute.
The plague is actually one of the known biological weapons, which is like on the catalog, but there are weapons like this, but yeah, not coronavirus or anything similar to that.
All right, so I've gotten our 2-minute warning here, so we need to wrap up. I know there are some great questions remaining. I will mention that many of us are going to be in the Discord after this, where we can continue the discussion. I do want to give everybody a chance to wrap up. As your moderator, I'm Dr. John Skylar. You can find me online under that name on Twitter as John Skylar, on Facebook as John Skylar, also on Tumblr. Feel free to look me up. And I want to thank our panelists and give them a chance to wrap up, as well as thank them by visiting the social media that they describe, buying their books, etc. That's a good way to thank people. Anna, if you want to wrap up.
So yeah, you can also find me just by Googling my name. So I have a set of scientific pages from my work, and I also have a writer's page, which is annakashina.com. So I'm on Twitter. My writer's handle is Anna Kashina. My scientific handle is Kashina Lab. And I'm always very open to conversations. So if you want to email me, I'd be glad to answer questions or like chat about anything related to this or not. I was not able to tackle Discord this afternoon, so I will try to go there. But if you don't see me, it's not because I didn't want to chat, but because I didn't manage. Yeah, thank you for a great panel.
Great. Carmen and Harold?
Oh, no, go ahead, Harold.
I'm not monetizing what I'm doing. I do have a LinkedIn profile, Dr. Harold Bob. I do write some commentary on healthcare issues. I just want to add one thing, that there's absolutely no evidence that this virus, which was initially found in Wuhan province, there's absolutely no scientific evidence that it was created or militarized. And I want to express a hope that, as in the science fiction movie The Expanse, where there was sort of again a plague of a sort, which caused nationalism between planetary empires, that at the same time it's also causing people wanting to come together and realize our commonality of humanity. I want to put in a pitch for that having a lot of value.
All right, I think we're over time. Carmen, do you have just one last thing?
One last thing that I want to say, I just want to reiterate what Harold said, that even though things look grim and the foreseeable future looks grim, and it's hard to keep up the hope, especially when you see all these people dying and getting sick and all this negative stuff, it's really important to know that we will get over it. We got over the Black Plague, and we got over the flu in 1918 and other pandemics, and we will move forward. And that's what gives me hope, that we will move forward, hopefully for the better. You know,
that's a wonderful final thought.
Let this be a good reset button.
Yeah. All right, thanks very much, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks to our panelists, to our techs that helped run the show, and thank you also to our attendees for coming. And we'll be on Discord for answering the questions we weren't able to get to the extent that we can. All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.